Hey guys, Thrasher here. The Dragon Ball Legends official Twitter has posted something that's fairly cryptic here, but not to worry, I think I have the answer. Let's talk about it right now. Okay, so first up, when the Dragon Ball Legends official Twitter posts things like this that are fairly cryptic, it's obviously a riddle of some type. They're probably talking about an upcoming character, and once we talk about more related to what the solution to this is, or what the possible solution is, it's going to be pretty obvious who they're trying to hint at. Okay, so first up, let's actually talk about this equation a little bit and the timeline of the way things went for me this morning. So I woke up at about 4:30 this morning, which is like 2.5, 3 hours before I normally get up. The girlfriend had to leave super early. Her mom has some medical stuff that she had to take care of. So first thing I do, I check Twitter. I see this post. Everyone's going crazy trying to solve the equation, figure out what the number is at the end. And I immediately realize that if you look at this equation, I is in here. I is a complex number. It is the value that you get if you take the square root of -1. Now, there is a reason that I exists in math, and it's actually very useful. In fact, we couldn't even play Dragon Ball Legends without the value I. It's needed for 3D graphics and movement through 3D space in the digital world. So that's cool. Sidebar, don't worry about that too much. Anyway, what I noticed was there's an I here and it's under this cube root. There's an I here, it's not under this cube root. That is the very first thing I noticed. So what I said to myself was, no matter what this ends up being, it's going to be a complex number. So there's no way that someone can just get a real regular number that's going to make any sense related to any character. So I posted immediately on the Twitter account of a fellow YouTuber as well as my own, saying this is not going to be a real number. It's not going to make any sense. If you're just trying to solve this for some value, you're wasting your time. So I went through and I tried to figure out, okay, if I solve this, what's the value going to be in the complex plane? So there is a way to graph out complex values like this. It's called polar notation or polar form, and essentially it's the exact same thing that you would see if you look at a regular X and Y axis graph. The only difference is the X-axis is your regular number line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then the Y-axis are the complex numbers. So there's two components to it. I ended up figuring out the values, and it was weird because once I had come up with the values and graphed them out, I came up with a point on the graph that if you add those 2 points together, it came pretty close to 17. It wasn't quite right. It was something like 16.9, but I was like, oh, maybe they're talking about Android 17, trying to allude to Android 17. But if they were trying to allude to Android 17, it would probably come out to be 17 exactly. And I was so groggy when I first started looking at this morning, I didn't realize, hey, maybe they actually made a typo. I was so focused in on trying to solve this and come up with the solution that I was like, oh, maybe there's a mistake here. And I think the mistake is that this I is supposed to be under this cube root right here. And if this I is under the cube root, then the solution actually becomes pretty straightforward and pretty easy. What happens is, because this is negative and this is positive, I'll actually show you a solution to this. Someone has actually solved it out. I solved it out myself on paper, but it's chicken scratch and it was hard to read. I was about to type it back out, so it was easy to read, and someone was nice enough on Twitter to type out their own solution to this, so we're just going to use theirs. It was Kiema, and he actually posted on my tweet, so I'm just going to borrow from him, credit to him. We'll show that off in just a second. But once you put this I under this cube root here, it all starts to make sense. So all you essentially have to do is start graphing it regularly. There will be 3 solutions. One of the solutions ends up being 17 exactly. So let's go ahead and show that off. We'll just throw it right in the middle of the screen so you can see what's going on there. So they're probably alluding, at least in some way, to Android 17. Now, let's go back to these 2 things right here. We'll throw up a link to Kiema's response to my tweet if you want to look at that solution a little bit more. But here's the key thing. So we know that they're probably talking about Android 17. We see that there are 2 equations here. The 2 equations are the same. The only difference is one is surrounded by a black square, or black rectangle. The other is surrounded by an orange or tan rectangle. What we know about Super Android 17 is that he's a fusion of 2 Android 17s, one that is wearing more of a black outfit, jacket thing, whatever you want to call it. I think it's called like a Hell Duster or something like that. And then the other Android 17 that fuses with that Android 17 is wearing more of a tan jacket. So it seems like that's kind of what they're alluding to here, is you have 2 of the exact same thing that are going to fuse together, give us Super Android 17, and that's probably what they're talking about. Now, one other thing I want to mention here is when we were talking about the updates the other day and they talked about the new challenge rush that was coming out, one of the tags was actually 3 question marks, meaning that there was a new tag, or I thought there was going to be a new tag. One thing Goresh had mentioned earlier this morning is that it's very possible that instead of it being a new tag, it may have been an old tag that they purposely hid to make this harder to figure out right here. He thinks it's very possibly the GT tag, and if it had actually shown the GT tag there, it would make this too easy to figure out. Everyone would immediately think it's Super 17. I think we all figured it out pretty quick anyway, but that actually does make sense to me. We probably won't get a new tag, and that actually makes more sense if you read the bottom there, because it says all the tags listed were based on tags that were already in the game on the, I believe, 18th is when that was actually shown off. So it seems to me like Android 17 is probably the solution to this, or Super Android 17. I don't know when we're going to get him. I assume it's going to be pretty soon, because when they show teasers like this, it's generally just a couple days later that we get whatever character they're teasing. So I'm guessing probably sometime middle of this week, maybe late this week, but I don't think anytime any later than the end of the weekend. So I would expect Super 17 very soon. Probably Fuse tag, probably Android tag, not probably to the Android tag, absolutely the Android tag, but almost guaranteed the Fuse tag as well. So he's going to be a super powerful character, especially when they tease characters like this. He's probably going to go on some Legends banner, which means that he's going to be insane. Maybe a step up, we'll see. But that's about it for right now. I'm fairly certain it's Super 17. We'll see what happens from here. If you guys think I missed anything, if you guys have any other suggestions for who it might be, feel free to throw those out there. And if you guys like this content, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.